Hi, I'm Caleb with the Weatherby Custom Shop. I'm the lead gunsmith here, and I'm here to show you a build of a Model 307 we're going to do. We decided we wanted to do something special for a build of the month, really to showcase the versatility and capability of a Model 307 action with a whole bunch of different aftermarket components and different configurations that aren't necessarily offered in line, that you could build yourself or with the help of a local gunsmith. And what we've got is basically a Model 307 builder's action. A Model 307 builder's action will come pre-packaged with a painted, completed bolt, receiver, and then your extractor, ejector, and bolt stop will all be in the receiver when you get it. The only thing you'll be missing is a trigger. We're choosing a TriggerTech trigger for this one, and the trigger pins. The trigger pins, you just need a standard 700 profile. It'll be a 0.125 by 0.630 pin. Any kind of hardened pin stock will do just fine. But everything else will be painted and ready to go for you to install a barrel onto your gun. So the important thing when you're doing that is going to be head spacing. Head spacing is defined as how far a cartridge goes into the chamber and stops, and then also it corresponds with your bolt face dimension. So your bolt has to have a very specific dimension where the cartridge can go in, stop in the chamber, and the bolt will close behind it and not have too much play between those 2 points. Generally, you're talking about 3 or 4 thousandths of an inch between where the cartridge will stop and your bolt face. You don't want to go too much further than that. Fortunately, what we do have are hardened ground specific headspace gauges for each caliber. So this one's going to be a 223 Remington, so we have 223 Remington headspace gauges. And when you install your bolt, you'll want it when your barrel is torqued on and everything, to where the go gauge, there's usually a set of a go gauge, a no-go gauge, and potentially a field gauge. The go gauge should go in the chamber and your bolt should close on the go gauge with no problems at all. You shouldn't feel any resistance. The no-go gauge should go into the chamber and then not be able to close. If the bolt can close on a no-go gauge, you could use a field gauge. The field gauge is the maximum allowable safe dimension for your chamber and bolt. Any more than that, the gun will be considered unsafe and bad things could happen. So you want, on a no-go gauge, that bolt should not be able to close all the way down at all. And then a go gauge, you should be able to close your bolt with little to no resistance. And that, of course, is on a strip bolt with no ejector or no extractor in there. It's best practice to do that. So in order to do so, when you're installing a barrel on a Model 307 builder's action, a couple of different ways you can go by it. There's a lot of pre-fit barrels out there for a 700 style action that should be very close. That's why the checking with the gauges and the recoil lug that you get with your action are very important. Always buying a barrel from a reputable manufacturer. Like I said, we're using a factory Weatherby factory barrel right now. Or having a competent local gunsmith help you to install and do this process is always a good idea. So you can get a barrel, try this yourself. You might have to adjust a dimension one way or another. If you don't know what you're doing, I would highly recommend get the services of a gunsmith or somebody who does know what they're doing, because this is the most critical thing you can do for your rifle when you're building it. If the go no-go gauge passes, your barrel is torqued on to at least 80 foot-pounds. Everything should be good to go, and you should be ready to shoot, finish your rifle how you want to do it, put it in whatever stock you want to do. We're going to use the MDT Hunt 26 chassis in this case, but I can't stress enough that you have to use certified, good, known go no-go gauges for this process. Otherwise, you're putting yourself at serious risk. So we're at the 307 torquing station. So we got our barrel set up in a barrel vise. You can use a lot of different barrel vices to accomplish this job. This nice fancy one that we have here, and then we also have a short action custom action wrench that's set up for 700 style rifle, and a good known, checked if you can help it, torque wrench. We're going to put our recoil lug on the barrel first and our barrel action. There's a pin there. Make sure we get the pin on your recoil lug and screw both those on together. I've already kind of picked my parts to make sure that I know these work together, but we're still going to check, double check, and everything check our headspace. This is the one thing you can't be too meticulous about. So there goes our go gauge. Stick that in there. Our stripped bolt, there's nothing, no extractor or ejector in there. Still closes really just nice. Our handy little magnet that pulls our headspace gauge out. Check with our no-go gauge. Does not close. I'm very confident we can torque this on, no problems. Put your action wrench in. Like I said, at least 80 foot-pounds. 80 is adequate for everything you could possibly need, but do use a torque wrench to torque that on. Now your barrel is torqued and set. There's no chance of it coming off, and the rifle is, check with the no-go just to be sure again. Does not close, that's good to go. Make sure we'll still do on a go gauge should close. And we're good to go. So now that the action is totally torqued on and we can actually take it out of our barrel vise fixture, this is ready to go to Cerakote or whatever finishing that we're gonna do. We're gonna Cerakote this one specifically, and also get the stocks sent over to our stocks department to get painted. We're gonna try and do some cool paint job on this just because we can.
When we send a gun to Cerakote, all the component parts that are going to get painted will go in and we wash them off in acetone first, so that gets any oils, grease, grime out of there, just to make sure that the Cerakote will actually adhere to the metal itself. After that, they'll take it out and very cleanly sandblast it, and the sandblasting process goes through and it adds texture to all the metal components so that there is a texture for the paint, the Cerakote product, to adhere to. And then they'll put the coating on there. And all Cerakote is one of the newest, better firearms finishes that I know of. It comes in lots of different colors, and it's very abrasion resistant, it's very corrosion resistant, and it wears longer in the field. So that when you're out busting brush in the woods somewhere, it's not going to scratch off near as quickly as maybe a traditional process would or spray paint or something like that. We have a very talented stock department of actual real people that sponge paint all of our stocks, and they hand dip all of the stocks with a hydro dip process. The reason we do it is, well, because we can, and maybe it adds an air of camouflage, or it matches your hunting gear, and just looks generally better than a plain black on black firearm might, if that's something you like. If you like black on black, hey, we'll do that too.
We're back with our January build. We got all the components painted, Cerakoted. Just kind of making sure we've got all the components we need. Got a TriggerTech field trigger, our barrel to action, which has been proof fired, roll marked, so we know what caliber it is. It's really nice to mark every one you build. That way you know exactly what caliber goes in there to avoid any confusion. I've got all the screws for our TriggerTech, or for our MDT Hunt 26 chassis. Got our Magpul AICS mag, a DST brake, bolts, and then our P44J rail and our action screws to put it together. So we'll go ahead and start putting it together and do some shooting. So in a nice securely padded vise, nice to get that nice and solid in there. These trigger pins can be a little bit stiff, but that's what you want in your trigger, is no wiggles if at all possible. All right, now that that's in, we'll check our bolt. Be 100% sure this opens, closes easily, goes on safe and fire. Make sure that it doesn't go off on safe, that it fires on fire and recocks correctly. Check it more than once. Be sure all that works. Easy. Now the Hunt 26 is really easy to put on. We'll get our rear section up here. Our action screws out. Short one goes in front, long one goes in the rear. Make sure I got the right driver bit. So this shelf right up here should mate up against the back side of your recoil lug as snugly as you can make it. So you can put it on, and then we'll shove the stock forward real hard, and then you can put in your action screws. You can get the rear one in kind of first, just to guide. I don't tighten that up all the way yet. And your front one's really the one you want tightened up first. So I'll pull the stock forward, we're threading on, and tighten that down. We like about 55 inch-pounds on these. That tightens that down nice and properly. And then once you've got that on, we can slide our fore end over the top. Turn that to our nice padded vise. Fore end slides on just like that, and there's 3 screws that retain it. And these fore ends come with a built-in molded ARCA pick rail or ARCA rail with M-lock slots as well. So you can use a lot of different accessories however you want on this stock. All right. Put on our J-rail. On the 307, it's a Savage Stiller style base on them. They're not regular Remington 700s. They're for Savage Stiller actions. And they also use the 840 screw. So it gives you a little bit bigger screw for your scope mounting. Works on those higher recoil applications. Just gives you a little bit more meat. You're not breaking off the little 648s like is common. And 18 inch-pounds on these is common. For 18 to 20 is what most mounts spec. Okay. Now I like to do a little trick where I level our barreled action up in my vise. Just a little bubble level on your scope mount because that should be the most level spot. Now that I know that's tightened down pretty good. These DST brakes are timeable, so you can time them however you want them, if you want a little angle or not. I like them level. The 223, this is probably overkill for this, but it looks cool, so we're gonna do it. So what I did here is I just tightened up just snug with this lock nut beyond there, and we're just going to tighten it up to where our bubble level comes just to There. Now it's pretty nice and level with the gun. Your gas is going to vent out to the side, not to the bottom, not going to kick up any dust or snow or anything that you're shooting. And last check. I've got some 223 dummies here. Magazine sits in nice and flush. And it feeds. Auto run. Let's get it scoped up and take it downstairs and try and shoot it. All right, we're gonna head downstairs to our basement range and try and zero this and see how it shoots. We got one good group with 55 grain ammo, about a .91. I'm gonna try with some 77 grain just to see if this one happens to like that a little bit better. So it looks like we're all done with our build for this month. Kobe, our awesome cameraman here, shot a .37 right after my .91, so I guess he's better than I am. And anyway, this one's done. Stay tuned. We've got a lot more cool builds throughout the year coming up for 2025. Thanks for watching.